Good morning and welcome. Coming to you live from Site B at 9 o'clock in the morning. It is I, your boy, the OGGM, on this lovely spring morning here. It is the 10th day of February 2023. It's about 70 degrees and windy. Steve the cat is joining me. He's just stolen my jacket. And it's time to take a look at all the tabletop role-playing game bits and bobs of news we might have missed during the week, as all our attention was focused on Wizards of the Coast and Wizards of the Coast's new scapegoat, Mr. Kyle Brinks. I don't know if to be angry at Kyle Brinks for the stuff that's coming out of his mouth or feel bad for him for the stuff that's coming out of his mouth, because, you know, if he's attempting to pad his public perception and pad his resume and be the new voice for D&D Wizards of the Coast, since we haven't seen Crawford in a while, is not doing a very good job of it. I mean, his second interview definitely was better than the first. There is still some confusion over his statement that he made in the first. We're not going to go over that one because other people already have. But yeah, but today's news has nothing to do with Kyle, though we do have, of course, some Hasbro news. But first, let's look at my favorite story of the day, because I love this one. I love stoking this fire. But first, let me just take a moment to thank you for taking part in today's episode of the OGGM Adventures. And if you appreciate this, please consider liking. Please consider subscribing if you haven't yet. Please consider sharing this video with others so we can grow the OGGM Adventures fan base. And of course, please consider supporting the OGGM Adventures, as this is my job. And there's a lot of ways you can support the OGGM Adventures. You could buy me a coffee. You could donate to the PayPal. You could use the Super Chats. But of course, as always, the best way to support the OGGM Adventures is go over to BIG GEEK Emporium and buy the various adventures that I have put on there. Links down below, of course, as always. All right, here we go. Hey, you know what the most popular role-playing game in Asia is? I'll give you a hint. It's not D&D. It's not D&D. You know, most of the rest of the world is playing? It's Call of Cthulhu. I know I say this time and time again, and people are just like, dude, no, nobody's playing Call of Cthulhu. Here it is. Yep. Call of Cthulhu sales are an all-time high. Chaosium has recorded record sales, warehouses being sold out of Call of Cthulhu product, and of course, it remains the #1 role-playing game in Asia, Korea, and Japan, playing the heck out of Call of Cthulhu. They love those tentacles. They love that deep, dark role-playing. So, yeah. Now, why is Call of Cthulhu reaching record sales? I mean, it always does well. It's always in the top 3 of sales, usually in the top 2, you know, depending upon the demographic, it's either below D&D in sales or above D&D in sales. But what is different this week, this month, from, say, a year ago? Why would Call of Cthulhu Chaosium report record sales? Why is Paizo reporting record sales? Why are so many third-party creators reporting record sales? I don't know. Might have something to do with this. Hasbro continues to destroy customer goodwill, and the stock could crash 29% as it dilutes the value of Magic the Gathering. Bank of America says. I know that guy. That's Jace. I know him. I know this guy. His name's Jace. Oh, my God. Hey, Jace. This guy's holding packs from Antiquities. So where did you get this picture, sir? Which means that probably isn't Jace. It's just somebody. Maybe it's Jace's dad. Because if he's holding pack of Antiquities, that's like, you know, 1990s, unless, you know, he bought them from a guy who just happened to, for some reason, have packs of Antiquities sitting in a box for the past 20 some odd years, 30 some odd years. I mean, Antiquities was before I moved. It was like my favorite set because it introduced the Ornithopter. So yeah, either this is a really old picture, or this guy was at a convention and some guy just had a box of unopened Antiquities. Because, yeah, I mean, look how old. The Magic packs don't even look like that anymore. Anyways, this comes to us from Bank of America and the Market Insider. Hasbro stock is down $3 today. Its stock continues to underperform. Hasbro continues to destroy customer goodwill by trying to over monetize its brand. If you're not familiar with Magic, normally during a Magic year in the old days, we'd maybe have four or five sets, usually about four. Once every 3 to 4 months, they would release a new set, and they would build a whole big story around that new set. And usually the sets were sometimes interconnected, but not always. Now it seems like there's a new set or a new subset or a new booster set every couple weeks. And the value of the cards has gone down. There's been tons of misprints, tons of issues, tons of broken combos. The article goes on to say that, because of the glut and because of the over monetization, the legitimate play style is just crashing. Most people are switching over to Commander, which doesn't require them spending lots of money. Of course, there was the whole 30th anniversary debacle where they released that $1,000 box set where you got 3 booster packs of retro cards from the first printing, but it didn't matter because it was the exact same level of rarity. So the only reason to get those original cards was to pick up, the Black Lotus or the Power 9, but you had as much chance of getting a Power 9 card as you did getting a Scrib Sprite. In fact, because Scrib Sprites were common and they were unplayable. They were basically fake Magic cards. So, yeah. So, yes, Hasbro is killing its golden goose by over monetizing Magic. And then that follows up with all the multiple issues D&D has faced in the past month, between the underperformance of D&D, the sales of D&D at an all-time low. Hasbro reports that there are literally warehouses filled with copies of Radiant Citadel, Strixhaven, Spelljammer. Everything that came out last year it isn't selling. Every game store I've gone into, just on the shelves, there they are, going all the way back to Radiant Citadel, going all the way back to Strixhaven, going all the way back a year or two, just stacks of cards. I can literally say with 100% authenticity, between the time Seth's Games and Anime here in Ventura got Strixhaven in stock and Radiant Citadel in stock to the day he closed, they remained in the exact same spot on the shelf, did not sell, did not even move. Nobody even picked them up. They were literally the exact same spot. And since I walked into Seth's almost every day till the day it closed last March, I can say for Strixhaven sat on the shelf from the day he received it to the day he closed, never moved, never sold, exact same amount. Same with Radiant Citadel. So yeah, sales are an all-time low, and the recent events has just even decreased sales further and crashed the stock. Q4 reports should be out any day now, and we're not expecting them to look great. Hasbro is hoping beyond hope that the movie makes them the money they need, but right now that doesn't look like it's gonna happen, especially since, for reasons that nobody understands, they decided to release the movie March 31st / April 1st. And if there's going to be, if there's worse days to release a major motion picture on, April Fool's Day has got to be one of them. So because of the OGL, OSR, ORC thing, D&D sales are at an all-time low, but the sales of third-party products are at an all-time high. So congratulations to various other companies. And now we are reporting again that Bank of America is once again saying this is the second time in 2 months that Bank of America has said, do not invest in Hasbro. If you have Hasbro stock, sell it now because it's going to go even lower. Yeah, Hasbro is not doing very well. But let's look what else is going on in the tabletop role-playing game news. Okay. So if you haven't had a chance to head on over to Humble Bumble yet, Paizo has a huge bundle to introduce players to Pathfinder. For $5, you get basically all the basic stuff you would need to start playing Pathfinder. Remember, though, it's Humble Bumble, so these are PDFs. You get all the PDFs that make up the Pathfinder Beginners box set, including things that sort of don't make sense as PDFs, like a map. But you don't get the dice. But you do get the starter adventure. You also get a PDF version of the player's handbook. You get some PDF character record sheets. You get PDFs of tokens, which again don't really make sense because the amount of time and energy it would take to print out the tokens, cut them out, and then put them on anything to make them even usable in a game seems to sort of be counterproductive. And some other things that sort of, you also get an adventure. So for $5, you get pretty much the player's handbook and some extra stuff and an adventure, because the other, like the character record sheets, those are free. And the tokens, again, it doesn't really work as a PDF unless you have a printer good enough to print them out on cardboard. In regards to podcast and actual plays, it appears that the most popular ones are the ones that are not D&D plays. I guess everybody's just getting tired of Critical Role. And just, that whole style of everybody trying to copy Critical Role. Only Critical Role can be Critical Role. And everybody else who's tried to be Critical Role just hasn't really caught it. And it's looking more and more like the D&D alternatives of podcasts and Let's Plays are gaining popularity. Our friends in Free League are still fulfilling their 5e contracts, even though they have also agreed to sign up for the ORC as of today. So Ruins of Symborium is a dark fantasy role-playing game that they have done stuff with, and they've converted it to 5e, and they're making some releases for it. And again, here we go, that the OGO controversy has turbocharged the sales of other products. So again, here's another article talking about Cobalt Press, Goodman Games, all these third-party, Castles and Crusades, Paizo reporting record sales thanks to the OGL ORC debacle. We got some Kickstarters beginning. Nothing that really looks interesting, though. Yeah, thankfully, there doesn't seem to be a lot going on in the industry today that isn't related to Wizards of the Coast and Kyle. Now it's time to do damage control, little damage control, addressing the individuals out there who are directing their anger and frustration at Wizards of the Coast employees, even including Kyle. Remember, these guys are just doing their job. So please, no death threats, no, insults, no, I'm going to kill your moms, no, you ruined D&D. Even Kyle, at the end of the day, is just doing his job and really doesn't deserve the hell that he's getting from some of the peoples out there. Focus your anger on the Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro board of directors and CEOs, the rank and file. Many of them didn't want the ORC to happen. Okay. Many of them didn't want the OGL debacle to happen. Many of them weren't even aware of it. Now, we have multiple quotes from Kyle and others that, Cynthia Williams and Dan and the Hasbro people didn't trust the employees. So they didn't tell them about what was going on. Now, I don't know how much of that I believe. Kyle made several statements during his interview the other day about how they tried to protect the regular Wizards of the Coast employees from the decisions that Hasbro was making in regards to OGL 1.1 and OGL 2.0. Mind you, these are things that they've been talking about since 2020, but Kyle claims they were trying to protect them. And basically the statement is that they didn't trust them. Whether that's actually factual or people are just spitballing to have more new reasons to be angry at Hasbro. You didn't trust your employees, so that way this happened. You didn't tell them, so, employees were just as surprised as everybody else when Hasbro did what they said they were going to do 3 years ago, and the way they did it. And, so again, don't threaten those guys. They didn't know. Now, caveat, anybody who's worked in retail or pretty much any job anywhere where there's more than 3 people knows that nothing travels faster in the workplace than gossip. So no matter how top secret those meetings were, I'm pretty sure by the end of the week, 90% of the employees knew. Frick, when I was working retail, even in my last job as a teacher, I'd walk into a site I'd never worked at and didn't know anybody at 7:30 in the morning. And by 5:30 the exact same day, I would know at least 5 bits of personal information about various other employees and students and parents that I did not need to know. So if that's how fast gossip travels from secret meetings and stuff, imagine if you're at the same place every day, and on Monday there's a secret meeting where they're talking about what they're going to do with the OGL and everything. By Friday, 90% of that office knew. So we are protecting them is sort of pointless. But yeah, and that's, resulting to people saying, well, they don't trust their employees. So please, again, stop with the death threats. Also, stop with the non-stop ridiculousness that we were going to destroy D&D, that people were telling you couldn't play D&D, you couldn't run D&D, you couldn't talk about D&D, you couldn't buy D&D, that we were coming to the stores and burning the books, that we were going to take away the golden dungeon master crown, that this is all about, persecuting people who play D&D. It was as bad or worse than the Satanic Panic. We were Nazis. We were as bad as Nazis for trying to protect people from what Wizards of the Coast was doing. At no point in time did anybody say you cannot play 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. You cannot run 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. You have to burn your books. Nobody was threatened. Nobody was persecuted. Nobody walked into a game store and was beat up. These are lies being fabricated by people who are trying to be relevant and trying to turn what was basically a positive movement into something awful, okay? The whole thing, if you break down the whole experience of January from day one to the release of the 5.5 SRD, it was all about so you, the people who are attacking us, could continue to play 5th edition and could continue to use third-party 5th edition product, and third-party creators could continue to make the product for the hobby that they love. This was never about telling you couldn't play. This was never about persecution. This was never about the Satanic Panic. This was never about, taking away your golden crown. The people who are saying this are 100% incorrect. And again, I could show you the whole D&D Be Gone thing. That was about people leaving D&D Beyond. And that was about people not giving Hasbro their money. And that was telling people, look, there are other companies out there who make product for D&D. You don't need D&D. You can still play D&D without Wizards of the Coast. Don't let Wizards of the Coast take away your freedom to create and play and run and support whoever you want. Because we had 24 years worth of hundreds of thousands of companies all over the planet who were using the OGL to make 5e stuff, 4e stuff, 3e stuff, 3.5 stuff, OSR stuff, Open D&D stuff, as well as other games. There are more games out there that use the OGL than just D&D and D&D adjacent games. I mean, I go to it time and time again, but it is probably the most successful story that came out of the whole 24 years of the OGL. Unions and Masterminds uses the OGL, has nothing to do with D&D, has nothing to do with 5e. They are distant cousins at best, And there are other games like Eclipse Phase and dozens of other games that use the engine but didn't, weren't D&D adjacent. And this was Hasbro saying you couldn't do that anymore. This was Hasbro saying you couldn't buy those third-party products anymore. This was Hasbro telling you couldn't upload your homebrew onto 5e D&D Beyond. This is Hasbro telling you, oh, we're going to start charging you for using D&D Beyond. This is Hasbro telling you, Jessica Nagari, you can't cosplay anymore as D&D characters. Jeannie D, you can't write songs about D&D characters anymore. All those Etsy creators who are making Etsy product for D&D and Critical Role and everything else, you couldn't do that anymore. All those third-party companies that have been making 5e, 4e, 3e, 2e, 1e product, Hasbro wanted to take that away from you. And we fought for 4 weeks for that not to happen. So for these people to compare us to Nazis, for these people to compare us to the Satanic Panic, for these people to keep saying these horrible things about how we were trying to destroy D&D is just 100% incorrect. And it's just them trying to stir controversy to remain relevant. So please, if there's anything you get from this ridiculous news that I post today and every day, that is completely untrue. Now, I don't know what the future of Hasbro is going to be. I don't know what the future of Wizards of the Coast is going to be. I don't know the future of Dungeons & Dragons. Stock's down $3 again today. Hasbro's putting a lot of expectations on the movie and more expectations on the toys for Honor Amongst Thieves. Honor Amongst Thieves is not getting a great, initial buzz. So who knows? We will wait to see what the Q4 results are. But yeah, I'm sure we will have more news from our boy Kyle. And we'll see what happens on Monday, because the Q4 results should be coming out by the end of this month. So that's what we'll know, and the movie's just a couple days away. So yeah, we will continue to see what happens with Hasbro and other news. Meanwhile, let's go back to still my favorite news of the day. Call of Cthulhu record sales, sold out, still the #1 game in Asia, still the #1 game in Japan, still the #1 game in Korea. So to all those people who keep telling me it's not, suck it. And for all those people who are surprised that Wizards of the Coast is doing the stuff they've done for the past 3 years, well, let's not forget 2020 Hasbro CEO Q1 shareholders literally said, this is what we're doing. 2023 shareholders, hey, this is our plan for 2023 to 2027. This is literally what we're going to do. What? I can't believe Hasbro is doing this. How dare you do all this stuff with D&D? How dare you say you're taking it digital? And I'm just like, dude, it sucks, but it's not like it's a surprise. And as that's it for today, please take a moment to like. Please take a moment to share. Please take a moment to subscribe. Let's try and get to 2,000 subs by April 1st. 2,000 subs by April 1st. So we can boycott the movie, which will be on Netflix anyways for free. So, and if you appreciate this content, please remember you can support the OGM by sending me a super thanks, signing up for my newsletter, or best of all, head on over to Big Geek Emporium. I give these guys so much free press. Head on over to Big Geek Emporium, links down below. Check out my merch, all of it on sale for $2. And I just posted a brand new one yesterday, all about final bosses. And I'll be reviewing some of my own product today, so we can take a look in depth at the amazing world of the Minions on a Mission. And you guys can tell me what you think I need to improve upon. So that'll be coming up later today. I have the OGGM. I hope you appreciate this content. Thanks for dropping by, Camp Moreau Superhero. Thanks for dropping by, Mar Hockman, my nemesis. And we will talk to you all later. Till then, like, share, subscribe. Have a great day. And as always, get off my land.